Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome in this new video. Excited to do a bit more content in English here. So I received a few questions from Paul off of Twitter about the Breathe Better, this respiratory training device. I'll pull it out in a second. So I thought I would make a video and answer the questions so everybody could kind of get my take on it. Before I answer that, full disclosure, I am partnered up with Breathe Better. So I'm an affiliate of theirs, and I do work closely with their founder, Luke, and with Andrew and Alex and their team. So keep that in mind as I answer those questions about the device, about its utility, etc. I also sell a training program that's centered around the device. So again, take all that into consideration in my answers and in my point of view. So I'll read Paul's email and I'll answer the questions one by one. I think that's the best way of doing it. Hey Sean, I'm Paul. I asked you on Twitter if I could shoot you some questions. I'm an asthmatic and want to learn more about breathing. I have practiced endurance sports since I was a child, and don't have any symptoms unless I get a virus. Then the lungs and airways might get a little inflamed. I just listened to a podcast about Breathe Better, and I'd like to purchase it to learn and improve, if possible, my breathing patterns. Here go the questions. Number one, what's your experience on the device on endurance athletes? Do you recommend it? I definitely recommend it. I've worked with other respiratory training devices in the past, and this is by far the easiest to use and the most accessible from the standpoint of how you can set up the training and what you actually and also the cost of the device itself. It's again very accessible compared to other options on the market. If you think about I guess in the same category of devices, there isn't much besides the Idiag equipment right now, the SpiroTiger and the P100. SpiroTiger, which isn't sold anymore, the P100, which is literally 10 times the price of the Breathe Better at this point. It's a device I used to work with. I do not work with this company anymore. I know there's the INX that is coming down the line with from Aaron Davis, Brian Kozak, Patrick Estes, down in Texas, Austin, Texas. They're coming out with a device soon, which is called the NX. I don't know what the cost is going to be, but the Breathe Better as a device that allows you to train respiratory coordination and maintain isocapnia, so keeping normal levels of CO2 throughout your breathing training. It's the only one on the market at this point that is this accessible. And again, the price it's $150 for the unit. Which is extremely accessible compared to the devices I mentioned before. And if you take kind of the other category, or at least I categorize them differently, the devices that help you work on coordination and prolonged efforts of breathing, like the Breathe Better and the other ones I mentioned. And then the other kind of category is more the resistant devices. So you got the Power Breathe, you got the Breather, you got the AeroFit, and then all of those are going to be in the hundreds of dollars. There's just the Power Breathe, or the Breather, sorry, which is a small device, resistant inhale and exhale. So that one, I think, is the cheapest one of the lot. I'll have to do a spreadsheet with all the prices for all the devices at this point. That's a good idea for content, actually. So I'm going to write this down after the video, so if I don't forget, I hope, comparing all the different devices and what they do, and then their price and their features. That's a great video idea. Anyway, going back to the topic, yeah, I absolutely recommend it. I use it with a lot of my athletes. A lot of my athletes use it and have found benefit from it. So, like I said, I do provide a respiratory training program based around the Breathe Better and how to use it and how to integrate it into training. I'm actually going to pull up that page because there's a few testimonials, feedback from the athletes that I've worked with, and I think that's what you were looking for. So that's more about the training. Letitia, she's a CrossFit athlete, and from what she told me, it really helped her with just controlling her breathing better, know exactly what she was doing with it, and have better control over it in competitions as well. Thibaut, he's an ultra cyclist who benefited from using the device. Max, he's a running coach and 3,000 a steeplechase athlete as well here in Switzerland. I'm collaborating with him currently on a running program for beginners, and then we'll do some advanced versions as well. But he did the full 10-week program that I provided with the device, and he was really diligent about writing down everything that he got out of the program. And he's given me some feedback recently now that he's started putting intensity in his training again, because he had stopped for a while, he was injured. And he said, I think the words that he used was, I feel like before I was breathing with a plastic bag in front of my face. That's the words that he used when he described how he feels now. So I think that's pretty potent for an effect. Anthony, who's a confirmed endurance athlete, triathlete, if I'm not mistaken, I'll fit from it. Quentin, who's a coach and a CrossFit athlete and coach, who's done some breathing exercises for a while, and really saw some benefits using the Breatheway. Claudia, CrossFit athlete I work with, who uses it every week. Noranath, who's a triathlete, and said it really made a difference in the way that he trains, the way that he thinks about breathing, and in competition as well. So all those testimonials are pretty valuable in my opinion, and just show that whether you're in CrossFit, endurance sports, or else, I think it's a great device to learn how to breathe better, and again, to train your respiratory system. But I think there's the conscious, or the, how do I say this? There's the fact of learning how to breathe and being more conscious of how we breathe, and then having just better control. Kinesthetic awareness, I guess, comes to mind. Just better control over your structures and respiratory system. And that in and of itself, I think, is interesting, even without talking about the training effect itself, which is always harder to quantify, right? But even perception is reality. And if you've read Endure, by Alex Hutchinson, you know that psychology and perception is at the center of performance, and we should not discard it as something subjective and not meaningful. It's absolutely meaningful. So if my athletes say, hey, I feel better and feel like I can better control my breathing and better manipulate and use my breathing in training and in competition, for me, that's a plus. So definitely a yes on that question. Paul, so I do recommend it. Could it have a greater benefit for those athletes that train or compete in sky races above 2,000 meter elevation? I don't have enough experience with altitude training or with people that train at altitude to tell you anything about this. However, I know that Luke has some information on his website. I'm trying to find it now. I think it's on his blog, and he wrote an article a while back. Show more. Okay, Breathe Way Better, Tales from Everest Base Camp. Here, let me pull up the page and I can show you. Okay, here we go. Tales from Everest Base Camp. So he's obviously used it in that context, and I think that it's worth going to check that out. I'm going to copy the link, and I will put it in the description below if you want to give it a read. Again, I don't have enough experience to tell you about the effect on, but it seems like it would have a positive effect, and does have a positive effect for those who have used it in this context. So that's for the altitude question. I'm going to keep going through here. Do you recommend purchasing a spirometer to test and monitor possible improvements, throwbacks? In a positive case, any recommended cheap and reliable brand? I have one to recommend. I'll put it in the notes as well. I'm not affiliated with Mir, I guess that's how you would pronounce it. I think it's a French company, and I use their spirometer, and I'm happy with it. It's affordable, and I've never had any issues with it. Syncs up with the app really quickly, and then you can get your FVC, FEV1, and the ratio pretty quickly. So that's a useful tool that I use in my time. I would say one thing though. I think you might have a harder time seeing improvements in actual structural changes. So capacity. Maybe if you're asthmatic, the expiratory power, or the FEV1 parameter, might be actually improved by respiratory training. But I have seen a significant number of people that I've worked with not improve any of the structural metrics, as Daniel would call them. So no change in actual capacity, but a real change in how they use their respiratory system. So the function itself, the coordination itself got much better, even though the baseline capacity that they had might not have changed. I tested Leah recently that I had seen in May, and she did the program. She's gained about 10% of FVC and then FEV1 as well. I know, what's his name? Jesus, I can't believe I forgot his name. He's a colleague. He's in East Canada. Is it Giles? I think it's Giles. Yeah. He does a lot of work with respiratory training with his clients and athletes, and he has documented some significant improvements in capacity and in power as well, using the respiratory device. So that's I think that's I'll have to find his link. I will put it in the description as well. So that's for this question. Let's move on to the next one. I'm from Spain. Is there any sellers from Europe? I believe they sell it from Canada. It might be stopped at customs. I've ordered it multiple times from Canada now. I've put in single piece orders. I've put in big orders. They don't stop it. They just make you pay taxes at the border. So I haven't had any issues with it. There's currently no resellers, not that I know, in Europe. I was I have a few devices that I can ship here in Europe if you're interested, although I'm not an official reseller, just to be clear, but I do have some extra units that I provide to my athletes or people that I go and travel and work with in a testing context. So I do have some units, but you can pretty safely order it from Canada and it will come. You obviously have to pay for the shipping. But you can do that. Like I said, I am affiliated with Breatheway, and I do have a discount code to order the device. I think it's 10% off, so it won't quite. It'll save you about half the shipping cost, which is better than nothing. So I'll put that link in the description of the video as well. And I think that was all the questions that I had from Paul. So. Yeah, here you go. I think I answered all of them. Maybe to summarize all of it, yeah, just to be clear, this is not a Breatheway sponsored video of any kind, but I am affiliated with them. I do really love their product. I think it's a great device. It's the simplest one on the market and probably one of the most useful ones and the most versatile as well. You can work your technique. You can work your coordination at high frequencies. You can work your expiratory and inspiratory power by changing tempo. You can work your endurance by doing prolonged sets of breathing. You can work on positional work, whether it's on mobility, if you're, a time trial, or if you're a triathlete, long course triathlete, and you're going to be on a TT position, you can work on breathing in that position. If you're a CrossFitter, you can work in the overhead position or upside down. You can add, and I talk about this in the program, you can add the Breatheway at the end of a training session to increase the stimulus on the respiratory system. You can use it to condition your respiratory system before you go into an intensity phase. If you haven't done much intensity, like you've done a base training phase, and then you go into intense training, use the Breatheway a couple weeks before so that your respiratory muscles are not completely out of shape when you get to VO2 max training or whatever you're doing in your intensity block, and you're able to just hit the ground running, using it when you're injured as an extra stimulus. I mean, there's so many interesting ways to apply this device, I think, and I think it would benefit a lot of people, and it's gaining in popularity. A lot of people still say, yeah, the respiratory system cannot be a limiting factor because it's overbuilt, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean you cannot train your coordination and your control to be better. And I think it's an untapped resource, and it's probably not going to give you plus 40% performance. We're obviously looking at marginal gains, but for those looking for marginal gains, or for those who want to focus more on their breathing, or for those who feel like they're limited by their breathing during an intense sport or event, I think these are all good reasons to explore respiratory training. And from my perspective, in my opinion, biased opinion, I I'll tell you that again. It's one of the best devices to do so. So here you go. All the links that I mentioned are in the description of the video. If you have any follow-up questions, drop me a comment below. I'd be happy to answer that. And yeah, that was fun. And I'll get cranking on that overview of all the devices and their features and whatnot. That's one I've been wanting to make for a while. So I guess I'm just going to have to get to it. Thanks, guys, for watching the video. Like I said, drop me a like, a comment if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next video.